time, the British police have gone from being the most admired police force in any democracy in the world to one of the most despised. And that's a remarkable transition.
Every day at this time we get a sharp take on the day's news. On Mondays we speak to Times Radio presenter Andrew Neil, who joins us on the line. Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
Morning, Andrew. Lovely to have you with us.
Morning, Andrew. There's an awful lot going on today. It's one of those days where so much is actually happening all around the world, but an awful lot is happening in this country as well. It's a big moment in our politics because the great issue of immigration, which no doubt will become a keynote issue for the next 3 years before the next election, is very much at the front of our attention. In the last hour, Keir Starmer has been speaking, outlining Labour's plan to lower net migration.
We will create a migration system that is controlled.
Prince Harry thought it'd be just another interview until Andrew Neil shredded him on live TV. Tears, tension, and total chaos. What happened next will shock you. Andrew Neil didn't come to play games. The veteran broadcaster had Prince Harry in his crosshairs, and when Neil branded the Duke of Sussex a royal mess on live television, it wasn't just another opinion piece, it was a public execution. Neil's words cut through Harry's carefully crafted victim narrative like a knife through butter. "You hate the press, yet you are the press now," Neil sneered, his voice dripping with icy sarcasm that has made politicians squirm for decades.
Of the Mail on Sunday, Harry had tried to have their defence of honest opinion.
The contradiction was impossible to ignore. Here was a man who claimed to despise media intrusion while simultaneously building a media empire worth millions. Neil delivered his takedown with calm fury. No shouting, no dramatics, just cold, calculated truth-telling that hit harder than any tantrum ever could. Social media exploded. #RoyalMess started trending worldwide. The damage was immediate and devastating. But this was just the beginning of Harry's nightmare. Neil's next target was the elephant in the room, the Spotify catastrophe. $20 million for their exclusive podcast deal. What they delivered was a masterclass in underdelivery.
Wanted to become. I could see it was happening, which is why I left almost immediately, was an outlet for bizarre conspiracy theories or anti-vaxxers or basically the nutty end of politics.
The judge found in favour of Associated Newspapers in a libel case. The Prince sued the masthead over its article on his fight with Home Office concerning his security arrangements. Sky's royal correspondent Laura Bundock has more.
Well, this is all about Prince Harry's libel.
Banned, and so it gave GB News a bit more leeway to try and settle down. I am surprised that any regulator would allow politicians sitting in the House of Parliament to present TV programmes, political TV programmes. I mean, if I had stayed as chairman, it would never have happened because I would not have had any politician present a television show in the first place.
One podcast, a handful of awkward interviews, months of radio silence. Industry insiders weren't just disappointed, they were furious. The now infamous quote from a Spotify executive calling the couple grifters captured what everyone in Hollywood was thinking but afraid to say. Neil tore into this failure with particular relish, pointing out how Harry seemed to believe his royal title alone would carry the show. But the media world doesn't care about your bloodline, it cares about results. The Sussex brand, once golden, was revealed to be fool's gold. Harry and Meghan had vanished into their Montecito mansion, while Spotify executives fielded questions about their most high-profile flop. But the Spotify disaster was just the tip of the iceberg. If Spotify was a disappointment, Netflix was a full-blown identity crisis broadcast in high definition. Harry and Meghan handed over their most intimate moments for a 6-part documentary that felt more like an extended therapy session than entertainment. Neil's analysis was devastating. You wanted out of the royal bubble, yet you dragged the bubble with you to California and turned it into content. Every frame screamed contradiction. How do you beg for privacy while inviting camera crews into your home? The documentary was supposed to be their chance to tell their side. Instead, it became a showcase of everything wrong with their approach to fame. Neil saw right through the emotional manipulation. While viewers were supposed to feel sympathy, what came across was a carefully choreographed performance by two people addicted to their own victimhood. Harry had transformed from a genuine trauma survivor into a man auditioning for sympathy on the world's biggest stage. Just when Harry's media strategy couldn't get worse, he decided to take on the British legal system. The defamation case against Associated Newspapers was supposed to be his vindication. Instead, it became the most expensive lesson in humility he'd ever received. Harry became the first senior royal in modern history to take the witness stand in such a case. Under oath, Harry's narrative began to crumble. The contradictions Neil had exposed became glaringly obvious. How can you condemn media intrusion while selling intimate life details through commercial deals? Harry's discomfort under cross-examination was painful to watch. Frustrated, defensive, unsure of his own facts. The final blow came with the judge's ruling. Not only did Harry lose, but he was ordered to pay Associated Newspapers legal costs, at least £48,447, arriving just before Christmas. The prince who positioned himself as a press abuse victim was now paying the very newspapers he claimed destroyed his life. Neil's description of Harry's memoir was brutally accurate. A public tantrum bound in leather. The book sold millions, but at what cost to Harry's dignity? From frostbitten private parts to cocaine tales, Harry spilled more royal tea than anyone had dared. Instead of commanding respect, the oversharing made him look desperate. The book wasn't therapy, it was exhibitionism disguised as vulnerability. Neil's analysis cut to the heart. No amount of emotional vulnerability could disguise the pettiness of dragging family disputes into public for profit. Harry had confused confession with character, mistaking exposure for healing. While Spare dominated bestseller lists, it also dominated late-night comedy shows and social media mockery. Harry had achieved global attention, but it was the wrong kind. He became a punchline rather than a voice for change. Neil's takedown simply gave voice to what millions were already thinking. The prince who once commanded global sympathy was now generating eye rolls and exhaustion. Harry's emotional confessions, which once pulled at heartstrings, now felt like well-rehearsed performances. The tears weren't just catharsis, they were content. When trauma becomes your trademark, the world grows tired of the act. Social media sentiment shifted dramatically. Where hashtag Team Harry once dominated, now hashtag Royal Mess was trending globally. Neil's segment became the permission slip the public needed to voice growing skepticism. It wasn't cool to defend Harry anymore, it was naive. The media narrative flipped overnight. The sympathy well had run dry, and Harry seemed oblivious to the temperature change. Behind palace gates, the damage was catastrophic and possibly irreversible. Neil exposed the human wreckage left by Harry's public campaign. King Charles, dealing with health challenges, found himself repeatedly blindsided by public attacks. Private conversations, meant for palace doors, were splashed across global headlines. The trust between father and son was shattered completely. The relationship with William was even worse. Years of brotherhood, shared trauma, mutual support, all destroyed by Harry's need to settle scores publicly. Harry's latest revelation about his father's health, "I don't know how much longer my father's got," was a betrayal even supporters struggled to defend. The prince who once walked behind his mother's coffin with dignity had become the prince who aired family laundry for profit. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. While family relationships crumbled, another crisis was brewing. The Sussex lifestyle was expensive, extremely expensive. Their estimated annual expenses of $20 million were staggering. Private security, mansion maintenance, staff, travel, it required constant substantial income. But Harry and Meghan's economic productivity was questionable. Spotify had collapsed. Netflix was paying for content, but after production costs, speaking fees weren't enough to fund a royal lifestyle without royal backing. Palace sources revealed genuine concern about what would happen when money ran out. Not to help financially, but understanding the implications. A broke Harry might become a more desperate Harry, potentially selling even more family secrets. The mortgage on their $14 million mansion was reportedly $9 million. Harry's inheritance, while substantial, wasn't infinite. The prince who criticized royal family wealth was now trapped in a golden cage, dependent on the very media attention he claimed to despise. When Harry and Meghan arrived in California, Americans welcomed them as brave escapees trading tiaras for freedom. But fairy tales don't age well under scrutiny. The honeymoon died as contradictions became impossible to ignore. They preached environmental consciousness while hopping private jets, campaigned for mental health while cashing multi-million-dollar checks, spoke about compassion while airing family grievances internationally. Middle America, initially charmed, began seeing pampered elites cloaked in struggle language while swimming in luxury. Even moderate liberals questioned whether the couple represented progress or celebrity narcissism wrapped in woke packaging. The couple who once had the world's sympathy now faced its sarcasm. They'd walked away from monarchy, hoping to reinvent themselves as authentic change voices. Instead, they became a parody of the celebrity class they once seemed to resist. Neil's takedown marked the end of Harry's unchallenged narrative. Within hours, social media exploded with clips of Neil's savage moments. The response from Team Sussex was telling: strategic silence and quiet damage control that felt like guilt admission. But the real impact went beyond trends and news cycles. Neil forced a broader conversation about commodified pain, performed vulnerability, and fame's price in the digital age. Harry had become more than a fallen prince. He was a symbol of everything wrong with celebrity culture. The royal saga that captivated the world suddenly felt tired, repetitive, exploitative. The public was ready to change the channel. The spell was broken, the narrative shattered, and the prince who once walked behind his mother's coffin with dignity was now walking alone into an uncertain future. Andrew Neil hadn't just critiqued Prince Harry. He performed a public service, holding up a mirror to a culture obsessed with oversharing and monetized misery. In that reflection, everyone could see the truth. Harry wasn't just a royal mess, he had become a cautionary tale for the ages.